All right, let's get to our next question. Allison, welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
We got so many more questions. The people keep having questions about phones,
I
Allison.
love it. I'm here. I'm literally here for it.
I love it. All right, you have not heard either of these.
Uh-huh.
So let me play you the first one and then we'll go from there. All right,
Okay.
here we go.
Hello. Hello, this is Shravani from India. I just do want to know that I am using a Pixel 6a. So is it worth upgrading to Pixel 7a, or I will wait for Pixel 8a or 9 something? Thank you.
Okay, I love this. We love an upgrade question here on
Oh,
the
I
Vergecast.
love
And
it.
this is a good one, right? Because we just spent a bunch of time saying, like, if you have an old phone, here's when you should get a new phone. But this is last year's phone and this year's phone. Worth the upgrade?
I say hold on to the 6A unless you are like a wireless charging stan, because that's in my mind that's the big upgrade with the 7A. Like there's a lot of other stuff, but no, I think that 6A is going to be solid for like a couple more years at least. Yeah, that's my hot take. Don't buy a new phone.
I like it. And I think that Google has done a pretty good job of keeping these phones updated for a while. So I think you've got at least another couple of years of solid updates and the thing will continue to work. And Google's so invested in the software anyway that it feels like the Pixels have been kind of the rare phones that do a good job of getting appreciably better over time.
Yeah,
And so I feel good. I'm kind of with you.
yeah.
Do we know anything about the Pixel 8a? Have the leaks started for that yet, or is it too early?
I don't know. I've been reading the iPhone leaks.
It's out of control. Who even knows? All right, that is good. Stick with the 6a. I think it's the right call. And here's hoping Google cares about the Pixel long enough to make an 8a.
Please. Yes.
All right, let's get to our next one, which is substantially more philosophical than
Ooh.
the other one. So here we go.
Hey guys, this is Mark from Houston, and some comment that David made a few weeks, I guess it was like a week ago on Vergecast, and he talked about how he felt that the Nothing Phone 2 sort of represented a sort of shift back into maybe like the old days of Android, where there's a lot of different competition and a lot of different interesting phones. And I was wondering, I feel like a really big part of what made phones interesting in the mid 2010s were really the fact that we had a ton of Chinese phones and even Indian phones. And so I assumed that with a change of administration that we'd maybe see some sort of movement on that front. But I was wondering, are we ever going to get any phones from Huawei or Xiaomi or Oppo back here in the U.S., or is that sort of just doomed to never come back? Because I really do feel like it was providing an interesting competition here. So anyways, I was just wondering if you guys had any updates, or if you guys could maybe show us or talk to us about that.
So I like this question in part because it references things that I said on the Vergecast. So congratulations to me. But I think this is really interesting. What I don't want to do is like make political predictions, right? Because so much of this is wrapped up in politics and things change really fast. I would say if you like forced me to guess, I would say the relations with China are not going to get immediately better.
Yeah.
But the world changes quickly. Who knows? But I do think one of the things we talk about, I think not enough on this show, is the fact that the US as a phone market is so much less interesting in a lot of ways than all of the rest of the markets in the world for exactly the reason that they're describing. And I do wonder if you think about it that way. Like, is it a bummer that we don't get kind of the full breadth of what's out there and is available to us? And is there a chance that like more American companies might try to do in this market what is happening in other markets around the world?
I have so many feelings about this. Yes, like it is a bummer. There are so many, especially in foldables, like there's so many more options, thinner, cheaper, that we basically have two foldables here and they're expensive as all hell.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's a few things going on, like obviously the relationships with China, and I don't see that changing anytime soon either. It's also the carriers, I think, have
Yeah.
have the manufacturers kind of under their thumb. And it's really a bummer. I feel like it just has resulted in like, we get the kind of phones that Verizon and T-Mobile and AT&T think they can sell, at every price point, and that's kind of all there's room for. And right. You've seen things like, even when LG left the mobile space and they didn't have like massive market share, we were kind of like, oh, now's their chance. Maybe Oppo will come in here, and Samsung just like shut that shit right down. Mm-hmm. And we are exactly where we were before, but with less LG.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I do think I forget about the carrier thing sometimes, just because like I live in the US and I'm sort of used to the way that it is, but it is so unlike the rest of the world in that basically like the way most people buy phones is they walk into their carrier store and they trade in their existing phone and they get a new phone and they leave. And that's why people by and large don't switch ecosystems. It's why people mostly don't change brands. And it's why a couple of companies, namely Apple and Samsung, have been able to essentially just corner off the market for themselves. Whereas other places, you can just like walk into a store, stick your SIM card in, and poof, you have a new phone. I wish the world worked more like that in the United States, but it really doesn't seem like there's any chance of that getting better. And we even talked about this with Carl Pei. Like, these companies are desperate to find a way to make like unlocked phones work in the US. And I just don't see any way that's going to happen anytime soon. Do you?
No, I think it's a mess for them. And I sympathize, when coming into the US and trying to like sell an unlocked phone, without the benefit of those carrier deals, the trade-ins that they can do, the marketing. Like, it is just such an uphill battle. And I'm rooting for more options in the US. And I would like to go into, I don't know. Yeah, I think the carriers could do better. Like, I go into a Verizon store, it is literally like, here's the iPhones, here's the Samsung phones. There's a few other phones like over here, and it stinks.
I agree. Are there any, as you look out across sort of the rest of the world, if you could hand pick a couple of phones to bring to the US, does anything come to mind? Is there anything you like lust after as an American that you can't have?
Yes. The Xiaomi kind of flagship phones, I think like the 13 Ultra is the latest one. They have that 1-inch camera sensor.
Oh, yeah.
And just fully embrace the like camera-ness of the phone. I have this photography kit that you like attach all the stuff to it, like a shutter button. It's fun. I mean, is it the best idea? Is it something a lot of people are going to buy? No. Right. I would call out Xiaomi, but there's a ton of stuff out there.
Yeah. Well, and that exact thing is kind of the thing that I think the US market is missing the most, which is different ideas about phones, right? Like at this point, it's Pixels, it's Galaxies, and it's iPhones. And basically those are all the same thing, right? They have slightly different ideas, but they are functionally the same devices doing the same things the same ways at this point. And I kind of wish there was somebody out there doing what like Nokia did a bunch of years ago, being like, what if we just made an enormous, way too big camera and that was your phone? Like, is that anything? Or if somebody was like, what if we put a TV antenna on your phone? Is that anything? And then LG's like, what if it had wings? Is that anything? And I just... so much of that still happens in the rest of the world, and we don't get any of it here because everybody is just making these kind of like lowest common denominator, how can we sell 3 phones to 300 million people kinds of decisions. And the smartphone market is much weirder than US people would know, and that kind of makes me sad.
Yeah, we're missing out.
Yeah, so let's just all move to Europe.
Yeah,
that'll solve all our problems.
That would solve.
We won't get to have Threads, but we'll get to have cool phones.
Well, that works for me. No one's talking to me on Threads anyway.
All right, Allison. Thank you again. Appreciate you coming back.
Thank you.